Hi Wendy. So I'm doing this first video just basically on a general overview of how we should go about approaching this, or how you should go about approaching this. I've done a little bit of searching already, and this is a tricky assignment, and especially trying to do this when you're so new to this whole research and you know the little tips and tricks that you do pick up along the way. It is something that will take a little bit of time. So I remember getting a piece of advice in my first or second semester from a tutor an online tutor with Endeavour, who actually said to me, the key to academic writing is reading. And he encouraged me to read as many articles as I possibly could on subjects that interested me or that I needed to go into further for subjects. But that really did help me. So the more I read in terms of articles published, all journal articles, experimental ones, so clinical trials, as well as all of the other types, so primary and secondary sources. The more I read, the more confident I was in actually, first of all, understanding what terminologies were and how to apply them, but also in writing and coming up with it myself. A thesaurus was actually, an online thesaurus was my best friend for a while there, until I became skilled at being able to write using a diverse sort of I guess it's about applying the right terminologies. So it's not diverse language, but it's applying the right terminology scientifically to the concepts that you're trying to discuss, and that's basically what speaking their language is. So to start with, you need to know what you're looking for. So you've got a good idea already of St. John's wort, and we're also obviously doing a toxicology assignment here, so this is going to be the toxicology principles that are relevant to St. John's wort. So toxicology, which I'm sure you've done already in your lecture in pharmacology, the main concepts there are things like exposure, risk characterization, the toxicokinetics, which is basically what your body does to the agent. So metabolism, everything from biotransformation, first pass, distribution, all that type of thing. And then toxicodynamics, which is what the agent does to the body. So the mechanisms of action of the toxicity, the effects, the measurable responses, what's happening at a cellular level in response to that agent being metabolized in the body, and things like detoxification and elimination. So risk characterization assessment. So there is quite a few different things that sort of fall under that category, but basically polypharmacy would probably be the biggest one for the topic of St. John's wort that you're going to focus on, because it is a commonly prescribed herb that is normally used, traditionally used in depression and mental health. So you'll probably find that most of the literature there does talk about polypharmacy. So its toxicity when it's actually co-administered with other antidepressants. So I guess where to start here. Now I'm not too sure if you're already aware of it, but there are quite a few different resources on the library that sort of help with getting this type of an assignment started. I'm just going to quickly run through a couple of them with you before we go into the actual details of the assignment, just so that if you don't already know, you've got a little tutorial of how to do it. So if we go to the library, which I'll go through all of my screens to find it. Okay, so on the library screen, let's get rid of that. You do have obviously your LibGuides, which has got all of the different subjects in there. We go into bioscience there, and then pharmacology. There is one textbook that does come up that I've actually already gone into for you, and I've emailed you this section on St. John's Wort out of that. But there's lots of different e-journals on the right hand side here, and you've obviously got your typical databases on the left hand side that you would use for most assignments anyway. Down the bottom here, toxicology assignment ebooks. There are a couple there. Now that's one of the ones that I've already got the extract for you and emailed it to you. You've got toxicology assignment tips down the bottom here, links. This will be a good one here. So the Agency for Toxic Substances might be one to look at. Even the complementary and alternative medicine guides. So any of those type of links there, you might want to spend a little bit of time exploring them, seeing what you can find. Have a read of the articles I've sent you and anything else you've found, and just get yourself familiar with the topic, what you need to be discussing. Any time that you're going along and you find something, we've also got mini monographs over here too. When you're reading an article or anything, don't be too concerned right now about the primary and secondary sources. There is going to be a mix of both of them, and I'm going to go through that with you in a different video in a minute to talk about what to look for. But right now, just read as much as you can, and when you find something interesting or you think might be relevant, then write it down, record it, save it, do whatever works for you, whether you save the actual article into a folder in your computer or whether you write down things with your hand. It's completely up to you and how you want to do it. I will quickly just show you what I've found helps with some people who like to write things down. So I'm going to email this to you as well. But I do have a search strategy planner. So not that one, it's the note-taking template. So this here is just a little template that you can use if you want to write things down. Basically, anytime you come across something, any type of research that you find there is relevant information in or it interests you, you can use this little template here, print them out, or even just type it straight in here. Write down all of the details on here so it's easily found again later. You can even add a link if you're doing it electronically. And then down underneath, you've got the themes, the key concepts, notes, quotes, page numbers, basically just a little systematic way to put the details in there so it's easy for you later. One thing that I learned in 3 years is that the time it takes to go and try and find where you read that thing that's in your head that you've just written down to reference it can be absolutely ridiculous. So try to, as you're reading things, highlight them, save them, record them so that they're easy for you to go back to refer to write, or to actually include as a reference. That's one thing that I can't stress strongly enough. So I'm going to email that template to you in case you do want to use it. Completely up to you, as I said. Maybe even you could look at recording yourself reading certain things and use that as your note-taking. It's completely it's got to work with you, so how you learn and what's easiest for you. So now the other thing that I wanted to do, search strategy planner. So this is also on the library. I'll quickly show you where. So if you go back to the library page, just to the home page, and then study skills on the right hand side under quick links. So here in study skills there's a couple of little video tutorials about basically evaluating sources is one of them, but how to paraphrase is another, search strategies. There's a lot of information here. It is all very general about how to sort of try and be effective with your search and research strategies. But look, what I do normally is I will do a search with my keywords, and from there I just try and refine it down and down and down. And like I said, I spend a lot of time reading. I tried not to look at it as time wasted, because even if I read an article or the abstract of an article that didn't end up being relevant, it was just more exposure to academic writing and scientific research that I had. So it wasn't a waste of time, and it's amazing how much that widens your ability to communicate effectively in terms of academic writing and scientific writing as well throughout your degree. So it's never time wasted when you're reading something. So on this page here, there is lots of tips. This little video here, the main things is the CRAP rule, which is checking that your sources are current, that they're relevant to the in terms of the context in which you're trying to write your assignment, the authorities that have written them. So you don't want to be just getting articles that, for instance, have been written by researchers that also own, one of the or have shares in a pharmaceutical company that owns the actual agent that they were researching. I'm sure you've learned all that in critical inquiry anyway. Accuracy. Does it actually reflect what you know to be true about that? And purpose, like what was the reason that they actually did that research? Is it aligned with what you're trying to do? I never really looked at things that detail when I was doing my writing. I would just read the whole thing, and you get a general gist of it anyway. The more you read, the easier it is for you to pick that up. So that's just a little simple rule to go by, but don't stress too much. For the purpose of this assignment, as you're going along, anything that you come across that you want to know, is this relevant, or is this primary source, or whatever, just put it up onto the classroom or email it to me, whichever's easier for you, and just ask me, and I will sort of give you my opinion on that. Can't always guarantee I'll be right, but I will do my best. So yes, in terms of research, I'm going to do another video in a moment showing you how I would normally typically do a search for this I always use EBSCOhost, but as far as that goes, we'll just leave it here, and then I will do another one in a minute.